today about having multiple streams of income. I know for a fact that the cost of living is a thing around the world globally. So this is a very timely session to have. Mr. Tajudeen is a results-driven, efficient, conscious finance professional with extensive experience in finance, economics, planning, and strategy. His 37 years work experience was across public and private sectors, which provided him with in-depth knowledge of workings of the government, as well as organized private sector, particularly in energy and, oil and gas at operational management and board level. Mr. Tajudeen is an alumnus of University of Liverpool in the UK and a fellow of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. He is on the board of Narco PLC, Virgin Wood Limited, and at varying times in the last 12 years, Concordial Global Alliance Limited, Focal Global Trust Investment Limited, Tafsan Beverages Limited, Koga Farms, Falah Agro Processing Company, Greenland Fisheries Nigeria, Oral Ventures, City Rollers Limited, Ten Pearl Limited, and Arafins Global Investment Company Limited. He has also served as shareholder representative for Shell Nigeria on NPDC and NAOC unitized assets. Mr. Tajudeen is married, mashallah, with children and enjoys reading and I assume playing and watching football. But thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Tajudeen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, sir. So for everyone in the audience, this session will last about 90 minutes. The first 1 hour will be a discussion with Mr. Tajudeen where I'll be asking him certain questions. And the last 30 minutes will be an opportunity for you to ask any questions you might have. I find that it's always better if you have any questions to just put them in the chat box now, because it gives me an idea of how to manage time. So you don't wait till the last minute to put in your questions in the chat box. And most importantly, enjoy. I pray that we're able to find benefit from today's session, inshallah. All right, sir. So my first question for you is, what do we mean when we say multiple income streams? Like, why are they important? And what are the benefits of having such?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I'm happy to be here. So multiple income stream. The analogy is like eating from two plates. I have two plates of food to eat from. Not necessarily eating from the two plates at the same time, but at least have the two plates of food in your front, compared to another person who has just a plate of food to satisfy his hunger with. So when you have multiple income streams, that means apart from the basic work you might probably be doing, you have other sources that give you regular. The word there is regular income. It doesn't mean it to be every day. It could be on bi-monthly basis. It could be on annual basis. It could be on quarterly basis. And it could also be on daily basis. But if it is not regular, you don't have a multiple income stream yet. So it's having more than one regular income sources. That's when you have a multiple income stream. That's the basic of it. And why it is important. Indeed, that question has more or less answered itself given the economic context of today. Things are difficult, wallahi, that's the truth of it. Those that are comfortable know that things are difficult. Those that are not comfortable actually also know that things are difficult. Not likely because of cost of living has gone up, but also opportunity for income streams are not as available as they used to be in the past. There are actually new ones coming on stream as a result of globalization of contact, especially the lessons we learned during the COVID period, having to find a way to get business going without physical contact. So that opened up a couple of other opportunities. But generally, because of the relative productivity in the economy, the level of options for multiple income streams, even though they are there, but there are many people chasing it now. So that kind of gives a flavor of why it is important. So what are the benefits? I think that is the meat of it. So if we start from the analogy I gave at the beginning, having two plates in your front and eating that could serve as a source of food for you. So the real benefits, first and foremost, we can probably look at it from Islamic perspectives. The knowledgeable people have actually told us that it's better for the hand to be on the upper side and not on the lower side. That is, it's better to be in a position of being able to give. It is more dignifying and not in a position to be able to take. That's one benefit, perhaps. But on a social scale, you just be able to fulfill some of the needs that you will do more easily than when you have only a single line of income. Beyond that, if you have multiple income sources, the chances that you are likely to be able to have more savings than another person that only have a single source of income. And I can go on and on and on. I talk to the youth of today quite a lot, especially the sisters. On average, I think a sister will actually prefer to get hooked up with a brother that can take care of her basic need more easily. So if two brothers are equal on the basis of the deen and other things, that could be a basis for a sister to select a budding young man as the spouse to be. That is also one good reason for brothers to ensure they have more than one possible source of income. And largely, at the end of the day, I think to be able to be successful in this world and the hereafter, you need to be able to have the wherewithal. And one of the wherewithal, apart from knowledge and others, is also money. It's as simple as that. In Islam, we pray against poverty, and that's because to have money is important. Those will be the good reasons why I think having multiple of income will be important for anyone at all, whether a Muslim or a non-Muslim or whoever it might be whatsoever. I hope that answers the first set of questions.
It does, sir. Thank you very much. I really like the analogy you gave as well. Thank you. So I guess the question I'm sure on everyone's mind, certainly on mine, is, so how do you actually get off the planning board and start developing plans for the future in terms of generating multiple income streams?
Okay, so yeah, based on the answer to the first question, it means that literally all of us should be interested. But interest is not enough for most things. And to be able to do this, to have multiple sources of income, you need to be in scope. What we put in scope is down to each and every one of us. A person that seeks to be successful and should ensure that it doesn't pass by an opportunity to pick up either a skill or a training. That's the very first thing that need to be that one needs to qualify. Without having a stock of skill or a stock of knowledge you've acquired in the past, there will be opportunities, but you will simply not be qualified. So to be able to take the best advantage and be in play to have more than a stream of income, one needs to develop the quality of just being ensured that any opportunity to learn doesn't pass by, no matter what is to be learned, provided it's good anyway. So that is the first and foremost thing. Beyond this, all that then is required, if one has the knowledge or a wide breadth of knowledge, all that is required is to be able to seek and then be open to opportunities. In seeking to opportunities, the primary thing that is required for that to know what is going on at any point in time. And if I give an example today, it is, well, everybody will know there's a change of government, and that means new people will be appointed very soon. So this is a time when you belong to any network to be close to that network, because indeed, government policies drives the economy. If there are policies, and government would typically at any point in time, depending on the nature of the economy, would like to give opportunities to particular sectors. In Nigeria, for example, I think it's no brainer that the agri sector will continue to get attention. Because of the nature of the last election, for example, the technology subsector will continue to get attention. And for people that are interested and that would have seen one or two first two actions that this government has taken, would then be open, know that indeed there will be new businesses coming into country. Because businesses what they do is that they follow opportunities. Forget ease of doing business. It's important, but if I have two businesses, one is in a difficult environment and one is an easier environment, the one in an easier environment will give me 5%. The one that is in a bit more difficult economic environment will give me 20%. I have a choice to make. It's not slam dunk that I'll take my money to where it is easy because I'm only getting 5% there. Whereas a place that is more difficult, I'm getting 20% there. I would then look at value the risk involved in that 20%. If I mitigate this risk, where will I be? If they still reduce to about 10%, that's where my capital will go to. That's where my business will fall to. Today, I have friends who I met a couple of years ago, and their best businesses are in Borno State, Maiduguri, which ordinarily people would be running away from. So what business chase is risk-based reward. And once that provides the right opportunity, that's where the business will be. So for a person that is interested in getting multiple stream of income, there's need to be awareness of what is going on. What are the policies emerging? Which stocks are the best in the market? And we'll come to that. Maybe there'll be a question that will address specific of those. But essentially, to be in scope, you need to ensure that you have a breadth of skills and knowledge such that when there's an opportunity, you can play in it. Secondly, you need to know what is going on. Those two are the most important. The other thing, you don't need to have money really. If you have money, it's good, but you don't have money, provided you are smart enough to share, you can always get things going. I hope that also answered the question.
Yeah, that
of
does.
Who is in scope. Yeah.
It does. I think one thing that I would like you to touch on later, but I'll try and remember to ask you is, how do you start? How do you do this without having money? I wasn't expecting you would say you don't have to have money. So I'm quite interested in how that would work. If you don't have money, how do you, because the idea is you turn money into money, right? That's what everyone's always saying.
Yeah, there's a book that I would recommend for people to read. The book is titled Never Read Alone. I've forgotten the author. Never Eat Alone. I've forgotten the author now. If you don't want to eat alone, you always get money.
Okay. All right.
If you don't want to eat alone and you are sure of the opportunity, a good opportunity will always get money.
Okay.
I've had case in the past when it was a group, we needed 200 million on a Saturday. We raised it on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
At least we raised 100 million on the Sunday morning, just by talking to two groups of people.
Yeah. Okay.
It's because of the quality of the opportunity. So it is true that you need a bit of money to even be able to go talk to people.
Yeah.
But to really get financing for a business, just make sure it's a good opportunity. Fund financing will come. But we can discuss about that much wider later.
I think I found the author Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. I just Googled it. I think that might be. All right, cool. I put that in the chat.
I have a copy nearby, so I can look for my copy.
Okay, so thank you. Right, yeah, that was really, really insightful. Thank you. So the next question is, how can I identify the right multiple income streams for me? And I guess the reason why this question is really important is, especially within like my generation, everyone has a side hustle, right? Some people are, photographers, some people are investing in certain assets, but investing is not necessarily for everyone. And not everyone has, like Ishawa, what they say, no everyone is able to do certain things, right? So like, how do you know what works for you?
So, the first thing is you need to develop the skill of never fool yourself. At the end of the day, what we are cut out from, each person knows it, and what we are not cut out for, each person knows it. What will help really is the knowledge and skill you've picked up. over time. So take for example, today I can take an opportunity in real estate. I'm not a civil engineer, but I know enough to know the nooks and corners of small to medium type mid-estate projects. Largely because I've been interested and largely because I acquired that knowledge, even though it's not my discipline. So how do you know that this is an opportunity you could partake in? First and foremost, you need to align it with what you have a bit of knowledge about. You can actually buy skill, but to be able to buy skill is not at the startup level. At the startup level, you need to know a little bit about what you are going into. That's what will enable you to even see the opportunity in the first instance. Because if you don't know, you don't see.
Yeah.
Let me give you a good example. I'm not sure of the level of our audience. If you are in the space of having $1 billion to $2 billion for investment today, one area that will potentially be something of interest will be solid minerals. But how many people know that, for example, there's been a kind of exploration survey of solid minerals in Nigeria, covering at least half of Nigeria in the last 3 years? How many people knows? So you need a bit of, first and foremost, you need a bit of knowledge. I need to ensure that when you see information, you will then be able to see that indeed there's an opportunity in this. That's about seeking for it. When you now seek for it, you then also need to be open to it. So being open to an opportunity is also to then see, what does this opportunity require? Is it a fit for me? Or can I build a fit? Because sometimes there are opportunities that might not be fit for you, but might be a fit to the next person who might be totally unaware about it, but which you can then form a partnership with. Hey, this opportunity is there. I know you know about this. This is what I think. Are you interested? Is something that we could look at together. So seeking and being open to opportunity is what will help a person to be able to see that indeed there could be something in need in this for me. So the open to opportunities, as I said earlier, it includes knowing what is happening, being aware of what is happening, knowing the implication of things. Petroleum subsidy has just been removed. What does that mean? For the front runners, okay, people that have small generators and the smaller parts my neighbor type, they could go into the opportunity of changing the carburetors to LPG fired, and therefore just connect your cooking gas to it, and you get light cheaper than the PMS run type generator. So you need to know what is happening. It is when you know what is happening, you'll be able to see indeed whether there is an opportunity. So 2 things, very important: know and be able to see where there's a fit between your opportunity to what is happening. And secondly, you need to deliberately seek. Things doesn't happen. You don't get rich by dreaming. You don't get income by dreaming also. But maybe you can dream to see some flashes, but you still need to walk it. So you need to seek and be open to it. That's the second thing. And with those 2, one should be in a good position to be able to go after income streams in general.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say we fast forward to the point where someone has been able to sort of hit this goal and they have multiple streams of incomes coming in. How does one manage that effectively?
That's an interesting question. That's a bit I like very well. So since the time I was in, when I was in school, I actually have multiple streams of income. There are ones that comes in over weekends, and there's one that comes in depending on how much I get from the weekend ones. That seems to be the driver for the second one. So first and foremost, to be able to, the first thing is to understand the sources of these multiple income streams and know their trend, their pattern. When you know that, then you then need to ensure that your personal expenses and expenditure and the regular expenses is only limited to your primary income. Your other sources of income is not meant to be source of financing your expenses. In effect, you need to create a spreadsheet. Most people are IT sophisticated today. I'm sure we all know what a spreadsheet is. It's just a simple little spreadsheet where you plug in money that comes in and you plug in money that goes out. You must be able to track things. That's the second thing. So if you know the trend of your income and you're able to, you then need to be able to track it. You then need to be disciplined about it. Some 5 years ago, well, not more than 10, between 10 and 5 years ago, I ran into a young man who we got talking. And lo and behold, I discovered that what he spent on a monthly basis on regular expenses was about twice what I spend in the whole of my household. So I just asked him, how did he walk himself to that space? And he gave me an example. He said, no, there's nothing major in this. By the time he finished, there are a whole lot of things that I thought would be nice to have that has become habitual for him. Even though his income could not support it, because we got talking on the basis of him looking for another opportunity or trying to get another source of income. Unfortunately for him, most of his primary skill is in the banking sector, and that's all he knows. Straight from school, got a job in the bank, and thought, hey, paradise is here, and that's it. And he keep improving his standard of living up to the point that when the economy slowed down and the banks were reducing income, he was in big trouble. So essentially, to manage multiple sources of income, you need to know the trend of the income. You then need to track it, and you then need to ensure that your expenses is kept to the level of your base income, so that your other multiple sources, at very best, will be means of generating additional income via savings over time. It doesn't mean that you can't touch it if it becomes really, really important. But because our level of discipline are different, you can choose to put it in an investment that you can't touch. You know, there's some investment you can't touch. You just have to wait in maturity. So if you know your discipline level is a bit low, yeah, you can choose to put it in that kind of investment just to help yourself. But it doesn't mean it can't be touched. It can be touched when it's necessary. But three things: know the trend. You need to manage. You need to deliberately track it, and thirdly, keep your expenses only to your base income. With those three, one will be able to manage those incomes better and still get a good standard of living.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, that was very detailed. Thank you. So my next question is, how do you balance your time and energy between your multiple income streams? I don't know, this question is interesting because, you know, there are some people who, the way they invest is like that idea that let the money do the work for you, right? So you invest in, you're getting rent or you're getting what have you. But what about people that their multiple streams of income requires them to actually physically go out there and get that money? So like, in both situations, is there a need to balance time and energy? And if so, how does one do that successfully?
Yeah, indeed. You know, that saying that say time is money. It is true to a very large extent. So believe me, and I think that's one thing that I've seen so many people, even hardcore professionals, they don't know how to manage their time. So I have I was taught the hard way because I had to go to school and at the same time I was working.
Yeah.
it wasn't really, really necessary because my parents could actually pay my school fees. But I just choose to work because I saw the need very early. Just looking at the income differences and the standard of living between me and my peers in school, I thought that I need to build up income to be able to fit into the standard of living that is supposedly exhibited in school. So I choose to work in parallel. So the extent to which you could chase multiple other sources of income other than your base income is a function of the time available for you. So for example, if you are working in government department, so government department typically they close early and there's usually not that push that you need a delivery that will keep you beyond office time. So because of that, they typically have more time on their hand. But to pay for that, their income level is usually lower than people in most of the private sector. There are some private sectors that are worse than government departments. I'm aware of that, and they spend much more time. But the extent to which you can chase another set of income, it will depend on how much time you really have in your hand. Things are a bit different now because there are things that you can do now that you don't have to be physically there. Like online marketing, you can choose to market products purely online without very little physical contact, and you could still make some money. You can choose, for example, to if you are good in multiple languages, you can choose to be involved in translation of documents. You don't need to be there. You just need to sit in your place over a cup of tea, just as I'm doing, and you can make money. If you have knowledge to share, you can register with training institutes and institutions, and you get opportunity to lecture for money. Even at very early age, one of the things I did very early age, as soon as so when I was in secondary school, I was teaching primary school pupils. When I passed my GC and WAEC, I was teaching secondary people. When I finished my professional exam as an accountant, I was teaching students getting ready for ICANN exams. I had to stop it when I got to a job that required much more time and sometimes the weekend. And so your time, you will balance it to the type of opportunity available. It will get to some point in an individual's development that you don't have the time, but you have accumulated a bit of savings. At that point in time, you have a dilemma. You need to be disciplined enough not to put your money in businesses that you don't have time to see what is going on. Because I tell you, the best way to lose your savings and whatever money you have is to put it in businesses that require you to be able to look beyond people's shoulder, and you don't have the time. But if you are smart enough, typically those type of business will actually offer you a little bit of more margin. But if you are smart enough, you'll be contented with smaller margin on businesses that doesn't require you to really look behind people's shoulder. That would be pure investment, and you let your money do the work for you. So indeed, the amount of time you have will determine the type of opportunity you can chase. And the opportunities are many of the very types, so there's actually no shortage of them. It's just a function of what skill and knowledge do you have that you can deploy in relation to the opportunities that are available. The examples that I've given you, if you are not multilingual, you can't do a translation job. You cannot. Even if you headhunt somebody that will be working there with you, it's a question of time before the person knows that I can do this alone. I don't need this guy, except you are the one bringing the business. Yeah. Then you can still then see a need for you. So indeed, your time and what you bring, what you have accumulated in terms of knowledge and skill will determine the opportunity you can take.
Thank you very much, sir. So I guess I should have started. The next set of questions are more around the people haven't necessarily found these multiple streams of income. So what are like some of the challenges people face in generating them? I should have started with that, but it's fine. So I guess the question is, what are some challenges that people face, when trying to generate multiple income streams?
So the first one is personal. I've come across some people, even youths, that are just simply laid back. They are content with just having a job and having some money at the end of the month, and that's it. Look, that's what they are cut out for. That, and so that one is personal. If you are in that space, you will not even see the need to chase another stream of income. Yeah. So you would have more or less, so that's a challenge. To overcome that, believe me, it's not just a switch. Because people that are in that kind of domain, it's natural. It's behavioral, and behaviors are difficult to change. Ask our colleagues that read psychology, they will tell you. Behavior and personality are very difficult to change. So that's number one. That's number one challenge, and that's very, very important. The second challenge is also, most of us, we try to run without learning to walk and crawl. And it varies. Even today, there are some things that I have to crawl. I have to learn how to crawl on if I want to pursue such opportunity rather than run. And sometimes we can't differentiate between that. That one is not difficult to solve, because once you fail once or twice, you will learn, and you will then quickly take that learning on board. That's challenge number two. Challenge number three is then money. Believe me, even the richest man in Nigeria, what's his name now? I'm sure we all know, has to borrow money to finish his refinery. Yeah. For those people say, how can Dangote borrow money? He has to borrow quite some money to finish his refinery. So everybody has their limit. As we speak, I'm looking for 3 billion naira for an opportunity. So finance will always be a question, but finance, as I said, you can go around it. And the 3 billion opportunity I'm talking about, if I'm ready to part with 90% of the opportunity today, that money will come. But how much do I want to part with? You then need to run the scenarios and run the portfolio analysis, and really see whether you can keep the opportunity at bay without anybody seeing it, while you try to organize finance. Because sometimes too, once somebody else occupies a space, it becomes a bit more difficult to play in there. So the third thing is finance in some form. So finance is not unresolved. All these challenges are not unresolvable. The first one is much difficult because it's personality based, but the issue of finance and knowledge, because sometimes you might see opportunity that you simply don't have the knowledge to play in. So if you don't have experience in the mining or oil and gas sector, any opportunity in the mining subsector will be of no use to you. It will be a key challenge for you to play in it. Some few years ago, I was walking down one of the corridors in Victoria Island with a gentleman that is into real estate. So as we were walking along that corridor, what I was seeing is opportunity being wasted. What the guy was saying, what are the fantastic structure that could be on this land? That's what the guy was saying. And that was because we are both manifesting the opportunity from the lenses of our respective different knowledge. He's a real estate and he's an architect. The beauty he admires the most is structures. Me, I was looking for money. See money sitting down gently here. How can I get my hands on this? So at the end of the day, we were just talking about it. And when it finished, I said, look, maybe we can do something together here. And well, the rest is history. But typically, the challenges are not insurmountable. So the challenges is personal. It's also about knowledge. It's also about being able to organize it, because finance is just one part of organizing things. Yeah, let's leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Sam. I think you've expected this next question, but how do we overcome these challenges, these behavioral challenges, these financial challenges? Apologies if it feels like you're having to repeat yourself, but
no, it's okay. It's an opportunity to talk a bit more about it. So let's do the finance challenges first. The finance challenges is there if you are disciplined and you don't want to eat alone.
Yeah.
If you know that it's not smart to try to eat alone, it's better sometimes. Even for very big projects, if you look in the oil and gas sector, most of our deep water investment that cost quite some good amount of money. Some could cost as much as $10 to $15 billion. You hardly find a single company doing it at a go. You will always see a joint venture or a partnership. One is because not because they can't surmount the finance challenge, but just simply because they want to spread the risk. So the problem with finance is largely two things. Inability to come to the realization that I don't have to do this alone.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you come to that realization, it will help to solve most of the problems, including the finance problem. So that's about finance. I know of one man, he's been an MD of an oil company for some years now, and actually thought he's on a cruising mode on that career path. One day I just found out he has resigned, and I was wondering, what's going on here? How could he resign from this kind of opportunity? But he was chasing a bigger opportunity because he saw an opportunity, and he just, over the period, he's been trying to do it alone. But in this instance, he just thought that I've been doing this with someone, this is what I get. If I do this alone and I share it and I share part of it, I might still be able to get more than what I'm getting today, even after sharing from it. Yeah. So he took that opportunity. So what has happened, and the problem ab initio was finance. So he just sought opportunity because within his network, he knows people that have a bit of savings. And if he's able to demonstrate indeed the money in it, they might then just be able to come along. And he chose that part. So the problem for financing is ability to share. That's the best way to solve issue of finance. The issue of personality, that's a bit more difficult, but it's not impossible. If I remember, a little bit of what I read even in personality, there are opinions out there that even personality can change. And a good way to know whether a good example, especially for this audience, is if you see memorizers of the Quran, some they can read in many intonations. One can read depending on what the environment is.
Yeah.
And so there's that flexibility still exists a little bit, and that could help personality and change. So if somebody that know that is naturally laid back, all he needs to do is be in the middle of the guys that are hustlers. Believe me, in 2 years, if he doesn't become a full hustler himself, he would have picked one or two things home amongst them. And before you know it, in fact, if they're not careful, such people can actually become a better hustler, and he'll be all over the place and be pushing everybody around. To be completely, for full disclosure, I wasn't the best hustler among my group when I was young. I know of a guy who was still in secondary school. He was doing importation from China. And what he would do, okay, we all register companies. So he has multiple companies. And because the way China was just opening up then, we get samples. We test the samples in Isaleko, which is the main market then in the early 90s. And depending on what is moving, we then take the first mover advantage and just put a big order with a company in China. We don't have the money, but we put the big order. But the people we've marketed it to, we ask them that, okay, do you want these goods? They say you want. I can deliver to you in 1 month. So you collect money from them, pay the guys in China, and once you pay them, the goods will come. And the guys sort it out. The goods is arriving on this date. He will sort it out, get his goods. So what we are just doing was business development, which later best known as business development day. So sometimes personality could change if you meet with the right people and you know indeed this is a problem that I need to resolve. But some people don't want to change. They just like it and they just cut off like that. So for those, it will be a bit more difficult for them. But those are some ways that those challenges can be mitigated.
Yeah, I think I really liked your example of how the behavioral one can be mitigated, because I have experiences as well. So like my husband, he's into tech. And when I first met him, I was working as a researcher. And I always told him, I don't think I can ever do anything else. I can never do anything else. And then 1 year later, I'm working in tech. So
see what I mean?
Yes, I agree with you. Absolutely. Because I've experienced that myself. So yeah.
Very good. Very good.
So my next question for you, sir, is, let's see. What are some common mistakes? So we spoke about challenges. So what are some common mistakes people make when trying to generate multiple income streams? And how can these mistakes be avoided?
Yeah, the biggest one, this is a very simple question because I fell into this myself. So look, because at the end of the day, we are social beings, and Islam allows that, look, if Allah bless us, we should show it. Yeah. Some people like to announce their arrival a bit too early. And when they do announce their arrival, that comes with some pressures. So the pressures could actually then set them back. So the pressure will manifest in them not being able to keep to one of the principles, keeping your expenditure within your base income. When there's social problems, it means spending. That's the only thing it means. So, and if you have to do that, that means your spending level needs to go up, and therefore it might not fit under your base income, and therefore it could potentially consume all your subsequent other streams of income. So that's the major issue, major pitfall that people need to be aware of. So, but if that challenge comes and you still imbibe the second principle I talked about, ability to track your income, and you know their pattern, you'll still be able to maneuver. But if you are deficient in that too, it then becomes double problem, double pitfall. So, and sometimes, you know, it takes time to track. Track means you need to sit down after maybe periodically and do an after action review on yourself and what you've done. That's something some people consider as a waste of time, but indeed it could help you to ensure that you don't fall into the pitfall of not being able to track your income and whether indeed the pattern remains the same or there are changing circumstances and all that. So these are two good examples of pitfall people need to watch out for. And they are two perhaps most important. Ensuring that you live the principle, making sure that your expenditure doesn't grow ahead of your income sources. That will happen if you are not wary of societal linkages and you announce your arrival too early. And therefore that could create the societal pressure that will push your expenditure up. And secondly, able to keep the discipline of ensuring that you review things, you track things, so you are aware of changes before they happen, and with respect to your income. Those are the two key pitfalls I think is most important.
Okay. Thank you very much. And finally, before we take some of the questions from the audience, what are your best tips for generating multiple income streams, like as a summary?
So, so it depends on how rich you are, really. If you are if you are a starter, maybe just getting out of school and you've not had, so, ordinarily there are some jobs that pay you very good income, that single income might be more than two or another person, 2 or 3 income streams. So if you're in that kind of job, you then need what you need the most is realization that indeed things can change. If you think things cannot change, then there's likely to be complacency, because that income can actually take care of all your needs with a very good surplus. And in that kind of situation, why? So the first tip to generate multiple sources of income is to just take it as part of life. Even if you don't need it, as a minimum, if you engage in it, the time you will use for it, it will keep you out of trouble. There are so many trouble out there. Now, there are so many troubles out there. Everybody knows. It will keep you out of trouble when you are very busy. When I was in school, I was very busy. I was able to get out of most of the trouble. So the same thing happens when you are out of school. If you indulge in looking for another income stream, even if you are not doing it for the money, do it for the purpose of keeping you out of trouble. And then you would then, because it's a benefit on its own. So that's one. One moment. Who's calling now? Okay. All right. So the other thing, having realized that it's a necessity, there's benefit in it, is to then to see what are your best options. So people do things just for the purpose of doing things, but it's always good to get to know which of you, because sometimes you might have more than one option. Know what is your best option. And best option requires your ability. Why the basic test is just to see that what you are getting is more than what you are putting in it. But in checking what you are putting in it, it's not just the money. Always remember there's always the opportunity cost of your time. And depending on what is available to you. So you need to see that indeed you are doing the best opportunity available, because there might actually be one. You are doing the best, and therefore that will give you the best outcome. So ability to screen between opportunity is also then become very important. The third, which I will add, is that so if you have multiple streams of income, and it's only useful when you're able to keep those incomes, you might have the need to also do savings, to do investment. Investment is such that you could potentially lose all your money if you don't really are wary of the type of investment you are putting your money into. So you also then be able to know what you are putting your money into. If you don't have the knowledge, it's not a problem. Ask questions. At the end of the day, it is your money. If you don't, and so you have to be on the commanding seat in knowing what is happening to your money and what the money will do. So at my very initial stage, I lost some money because I did an investment with a developer. So everything was fine, except that I didn't realize the guy was diverting some of the revenue to other developments. And I wasn't a party in those other developments. So I lost out. Why he didn't lost out? Of course, he ended up in prison and all that, because it wasn't just me, it was a couple of people. So it's also important to be able to know where your money is going into, especially if it's an investment. Those 3 tips, I think, if one lives by it, one will be able to keep his income and ensure a bit of sustainability in his income sources.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Also, we'll take questions from the audience now.
Okay.
The first one is, what are the investment prospects available?
I know that will come. I hope that person has a lot of money. I'm looking for money myself. Just call me if you have 3 billion after the session. Call me. I'll give you one. And I can assure you between 20 to 30% rate of return. So the opportunity that anybody can play it at any point in time is a function of yourself, your knowledge. And so sometimes to partake in any business, I have a friend, all he's looking for in any investment is 1%, 1%. Just one. But what that translates to is that it's not looking for smaller investment. So what you are able, the opportunity you're able to pursue at any point in time will be a function of what you have and how you want to play, because there's only a bit of flexibility. So today, look, the tech sector is crowded. Well, there are still things still yearning for solutions, which a tech company could go. Even the angel financing market too is also crowded, but it's not very crowded because the speed to which finances are put on the table when the right opportunity is on the table is still a bit too long. In the oil and gas sector today, there's a problem of evacuation. So between technology and oil and gas professionals, there is need for solution there. So the investment tips are the solution that is required for pressing societal problems. So the way to look at investment opportunity is to look at what are the problems currently, what are the problems of today. If you're able to see the problems of today, you're able to see what are the solutions that will spend money today. I was in some discussion last week on petroleum subsidy, and people were talking about what does this mean. So it means transportation costs will go up. It means that people will be looking for alternatives. It also means that diesel vehicles that are typically are not in vogue, especially vehicles, I mean cars now, and lower utility vehicles, they could potentially be in vogue. It means that if you have a mechanic workshop, you should try and add a diesel mechanic to your number of workers and play it very loud that you can handle this kind of problems. It's a question of time. People will have to be converting, because I think gas will become cheaper. People will have to be converting their vehicles from petrol to gas-fired vehicles. It exists in many places. More than 15 years ago, when I went to Brazil, their cars were running on a multiple of LPG and petrol. So when you open their boot at the back, you see an LPG bottle, the type we use in our kitchen, which they can switch to fire their cars. Such conversion will potentially also pick up in Nigeria. It's a question of time. So the opportunity is a function of the problems, and there could be many of them at any point in time. So if you take the agri sector today, I've played in that sector a little bit. There are sectors that could still spend a lot of money. One of the companies I have association with a month ago, they were looking for companies that could supply them certain agri products because they have market for it in the UK. And sometimes what you need to do in this is just to play a middleman role. Look for the farmers, make sure it is processed to standard, and just look for the cheapers. The cheapers would almost likely know where the market is, because that's what they do. So sometimes it might just be an integrated role that is required. So the opportunity is a function of the problems at any point in time, and that's what will drive the opportunity. So today the government is taxing everybody left, right, and center. So if you're a finance professional, it's time to look at what are the companies that are offering the services of tax advisory and tax consultants. That's where you should be looking to work next, not in a typical accounting firm that just does annual auditing, because there'll be more business around people ensuring that they don't pay too much tax and all that and all that. And there's also a time where there will be bigger defaults, the potentially bigger default on debt. So if you are in a company, you're an accountant, and you also open a section that will be doing debt factoring. Buy debt for a discount, depending on what you can get and what you can negotiate. So opportunity is a function of the problems at the moment. How that helps?
Yes, it does, sir. You kind of touched on another question that came in, but maybe you could expand your answer a bit. So the question is, it would be useful if, Assalamu alaikum first, it would be useful if we X-ray 5 areas of opportunities we can actually look into. Examples would be useful, especially for newcomers into this space. So you've given us some examples, but can we have more like concrete examples, sectors that people can look into for like investment opportunities?
So, okay, maybe let me just start from where I stopped, that opportunities are driven by the problems. So, and I'll give 1 or 2 examples. But if you remember, I said your ability to seek and go after an opportunity is a function of the breadth of skills and knowledge you bring along. Yeah. Because you need some basic knowledge to be able to even see that it's an opportunity and then be able to harness the opportunity. So if you are talking opportunities now, which I have an idea of the discipline of the people on the call, maybe I could have tailored it, but in the absence of that, I'll just have to fish. So if you are in the realm of real estate today, so take Lagos. Some years ago, when the first blueprint of Lagos was developed and it hits the public domain, a couple of people take positions, and they've been able to take and make most of those opportunities today. I have a friend, for example, all he did was buy 10 hectares of land in an area that it was clear that the government would open up that area completely. So by the time they finish, the cost of that property went up like 500%. Unfortunately, he invited me, but I didn't take as much. I didn't take as much leap as he took, because he's an engineer. I'm not. And at that point in time, the time he has to be able to look, because the acquisition was from the Omoniles. If you are close to real estate, you will know that indeed that sector, if you have such properties, it's not one that you can just leave and walk away. Unlike it is a government layout. If it's a government layout, you can substantially leave it and just go. All you need to do is know somebody in the ministry that you ensure you greet now and then. If there's anything, you get to know. Or the Omonile type, the land completely can disappear. So today, the similitude of Lagos business, Lagos town plan then, or development plan, is the Lekki Free Trade Zone. Things are a bit more expensive, but I don't think it has hit the limit. There are all sorts of opportunities around Lekki Free Trade Zone, irrespective of your profession. This time to take position. As a minimum, one of the good businesses we do in those days is to open business representatives office. So when Abuja was just opening up, even though the cost of ticket then was cheap, it was just about 200 naira to travel from Lagos to Abuja. But we know it's also a big sum of money. So we open up an office in Abuja. We just rent a small part of the building. And it becomes an office that people can use for business. If you're in Lagos, you can use the address as your Abuja location office. And if you have meetings, we have a couple of meetings rooms, you can do your meetings there. We save you hotel bills, we give you an hotel and a business address. And whenever you come in there, you are able to show people that this is your office. You know the people there, and you can even demonstrate that you have a location here. And it does spend quite some money at that point in time. Similar thing would totally not be in play today in relation to Lekki Free Trade Zone. For prime locations around there, for people that will need to get in touch, some businesses actually their fortunes will be better if they have presence around that place, and they might not be able to acquire full-time real estate to it, so they might probably be looking for a business representation office. So that is one opportunity. So the opportunity, so that one is largely if you are quantity surveying graduate, or if you're an architect, or if you are even if it's just geography and planning, you can play in that. You can play in that. So beyond that, there are many. Just thinking widely about this, the example that I gave up, because there will be consequences to fuel subsidy removal. Because it's like 100% shift. Where it was less than 200, now it's more than 400. So people would definitely need to look for how to absorb that extra cost. It's either by avoidance, and avoidance can only be done to a certain level. Even avoidance, there could be room to play there today. There are already household equipment that use less power, but is that the limit? So if I'm an engineering student, should I be looking at, are there other technologies anywhere that you can just connect to your plug before you put in the plug of your accessory that will ensure that you consume less energy? So opportunities is all there, just to think a little bit, about it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Next question. So next question is, what do you think about evaluating local versus international investment opportunities, for example, in the UK or US, to hedge against Naira devaluation?
Very good question. Just give me one moment. Let me switch my light on. I think my battery is going out. Yeah, that's done. So, so indeed, so with the collapse, because the environment is a bit different from what it was a month ago, the government plan clearly is to narrow the arbitrage that exists between official rate and the market rate. I call it the market rate. So the space between those two will be as narrow as possible going forward. Now, that's what I think. Whether the market rate will move further down or not will be a function of one or two things that the government could do. And if they do that, that margin will continue to be close to each other, given the level it is currently today. Because it's becoming a pride. It's becoming a pride that our country cannot be worse off than what it is today. So even people that are not in government are interested in ensuring that it doesn't fall lower than what it is. But notwithstanding all that, one principle that could be very good is that because of the fact that the exchange rate margin is thinner now, the best principle is to ensure that you earn money in the currency of which your expenditure is. So if I have pounds GBP bills to pay, I need to ensure I earn GBP income to be able to defray those expenses. As long as you do that, you'll be able to beat the currency arbitrage that has disappeared. Same thing will go for dollars. So if I have dollar bills, I need to ensure that I have dollar currency to offset those bills. That's one good principle that I think we could use. But in terms of opportunities, there are opportunities across the border now. In the UK, for example, 3 years ago, if you have a regular investment account, you don't get anything on your currencies except you put it in a specific investment. But that's not anymore, because they don't want you to take the money away. You don't get something on it. At least you get between 2 to 4%, depending on which financial institutions you are using. So opportunity exists on both ends now, but the best thing is that move your capital to give you income where you need to, at least as a minimum, that will cover the expenses you need in the currency of that country. Then the rest, if you don't have anything above that, then becomes a choice really, where you hope to grow your portfolio. So if it is euro, if it is pounds, if it is Canadian dollars, if it is US dollars, it then becomes a concern of choice at that point in time. I hope that helps.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Next question. So not eating alone, so the idea of networking and partnering is a laudable practice, but surely it comes with its challenges. Could you enlighten
Absolutely.
these challenges?
Absolutely. So is you know the adage that the birds of the same feather flock together. So you need to be careful and be principled about your associations. So and that determines. So, you remember I said one good quality you need at the beginning is to be deliberate. So being deliberate means you be wary of your associations, and there are some that are default. So if the school you will go to, for example, you might belong to the alumni group of that school. But beyond that, you have a degree of option in choosing how you associate. So the risk that comes with flock, there are risk and opportunity on how you associate and how you keep your networks. So take for example, if you have too much information out there, it could work against you. But if you don't have enough too, it could work against you as well. So it's just keeping the balance and knowing what you want in any particular relationship you are keeping. So if you belong to MICA now, you need to be sure that, okay, what am I here for? What do I want to get? MICA as an organization will also know that, look, what can we offer people? What would they be looking for? So that is important. I think the principle is that we need to be deliberate, because indeed there are problems. Let's just call it what it is. There are problems and there are also benefits in associations. You remember I give an example that if you think you have a personality of being laid back, and you have seen that as a problem and you want to correct it, one way is to get into groups of hustlers, and before you know it, you will imbibe the discipline, and over time your personality also would then also change. So in that scenario, the person knows exactly what he's doing there. He knows that going into that group will also bring on exposure, because people will, so for example, if you're a Muslim, for example, you have certain religious principles that you want to keep. You need to be sure that in this group of hustlers, for example, how much of this will be impacted. Will it be impacted at all? Will it not be impacted? Believe me, there are a group of hustlers today that are Muslims. When it comes to time for Salah, they say, hey guys, let's go pray. And the next thing after, can we go and see what these folks are all about? They just go, and they could go as standards, sitting in bars, just not to drink, but just to see what is going on there, and perhaps get information about things, get to meet some people, because that might be your only best chance of meeting them. So all these, every association has advantages and disadvantages. We just need to be wary about it and be deliberate on why we are in any group at any point in time. That way, we then be able to take only the advantage and navigate the disadvantages.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Next question. What do you think about ownership or control for an investment opportunity? So would you consider an attractive opportunity for which someone else has legal or on paper ownership, but in which you have a separate minority shareholder position?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. And because if you don't think very well about that, you could potentially have your investment locked up or have your money locked up. Sometimes it's advantageous to be in a minority position. Sometimes that might just be the only option you have, given your level of the level you can participate in an opportunity. But if you ensure that you have something in relation to that, take for example, if you, let me use oil and gas, if you say you have an opportunity of playing in an acquisition of an oil field and you are a field engineer, so your knowledge is useful, the business will rather use your knowledge than go buy the knowledge. So you'll be in the scheme of it, no matter the level of ownership you have. But let's assume you are not a field engineer, you are just what will not be completely relevant now. Let's assume you are just a psychology graduate, and not that you bring any particular in on what is required for the opportunity. You are likely to be disadvantaged. But if you know you are likely to be disadvantaged, you can also then see what other things you can bring on the table in the business. So in any setup, beyond your level of participation, what will be required is, what do you bring to the table? You just need to make sure that there's something you bring to the table that is of value to the association. That will always keep you in the scheme of things, and it will prevent you being pushed to the back or sideline when bigger decisions come. In one of the early investments, wasn't just mine, which I represented, we had a seat on the board, but what pushed us away from the board seat and in the scheme of things was when the company needed to recapitalize. So at that point in time, we had a choice: either recapitalize ourselves and still keep the percentage holding that will keep us on the board, or be contented with just an investor position and not a core participant. The rest is history today. But the important thing is to be able to ensure that you bring something to the table in all instances, especially when you have minority interest. If you have majority interest, people have no choice than to reckon with you. Sometimes majority interest doesn't mean 50% or 51%. It's relative to what other percentage others has. And now you keep your allocation within the percentage. It's just like forming government. For people that are close to Israeli election, they will see that sometimes to form a government, they might need about 3 or 4 coalitions to get a majority. The same thing in business. If you have 3 people that have 5% and they have a cooperation agreement, that gives them 15%. If you have another person that has 12% and he thought is the majority shareholder, they will all the 3 guys that have 5% each and have a cooperative agreement will turn the 12% every time there's a decision to make. Because if it is put to vote, they might get a majority of the vote. So it's a function of what do we bring to the table, not just the amount of shareholding you have and whether you're a majority or a minority. How that helps.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Next question. It's a fact that the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is different from the reality of global challenges now. And without finance, there's no idea that can see the light of day. And Islam is against interest. What is the way out of this?
Yes, numerous ways. I have never put so Islam is not against trading or business. What Islam is against is the means by which you get reward from those activities. The concept of profit sharing is as old as the concept of interest, because that the interest is easier and it's more prominent in the Western society where the bulk of the finance is. That's why it becomes more prominent. But indeed, I've not done an interest-based investment in the last 15, 20 years. So there are opportunities out there today. That shouldn't be a problem at all. Even when you are starting a business, you can be clear that what you want to do is that you will share profit at the initial. and it makes sense. People comes along with that. The challenge is when you have losses. Typically, when you have loss, if there are parties that are not part of the business, they are just financiers. But if you look well enough, you see people that will be interested in taking part of the risk with you, and also not just wanting a risk and reward, and not just wanting to sit on the fence and just get 10% or 5%, which is actually not very good for most new opportunity. If you really have an opportunity you want to go forward with, don't go for interest-based finance. Go for a finance where everybody will bring something to the table, where you will not eat alone, but people will then be together with you in rain and when in sunshine. Yeah. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was useful. Thank you, sir. Could you kindly share your knowledge on and ideas with us on your journey in the agricultural sector? That was a request from someone.
Okay. Just hold on, give me 1 second, please. All right. Sorry, please repeat the question. My phone was recording. I didn't know how that happened. I was trying to pick a call or choose to record. Sometimes technology, it develops a life of its own.
Could you share your knowledge and ideas with us on your journey in the agricultural sector?
So agri sector. So at a younger age, agri was one of our source of multiple income stream. So I grew up in where I grew up. Ilikpeju is in the suburb of Odilo in Mushin area. When we were growing up, other areas were just bush. The Ikorodu road of today was just a 2-lane road, 2 lanes, one going, one coming. So the bulk of where it is called Ilikpeju industrial area today were our farms. So we keep farm. That was my first foray into agri. Then the second foray was when I was working in Abuja. I was working for government then. It was becoming challenges to keep my income stream relating to lecturing, teaching accountancy students because I had already qualified by then. So I substituted it with farming. So we're basically doing yam farm because that's more prominent in the suburbs of Abuja. We just get people. We only go there over the weekend, see what they've done, pay them, and make sure the farm is well kept. And when the time for harvest comes, we supervise the harvest and we do. But in terms of getting involved in real large scale farming was I think around 2005/6 when one of the investment clubs that I belonged to at that point in time. The genesis was some guys came together and brought this idea of investment clubs just to amass capital and then put it in investments. And that was the principle at the beginning. And we then said we'll put it mainly in investment that doesn't require time because we know we don't have time to put into it. But at some point, the value proposition of the agri sector was so huge that it lured us away from our primary principle of putting money in businesses that doesn't need our time, because we recognize that agri does need our time. So, but we thought we have mitigation for it by, so effectively we're a group of 20 by scheduling ourselves that at every point in time, one person will be around the business. So, well, it didn't quite work out, but that was my first very into big time farms. Big farming, by all respects, we got very good staff at the beginning, but we faced challenges from the very beginning. So crop farming in Nigeria, even up to today, because I have a brother and a friend who are still into large scale farming. Crop farming has the biggest challenge is actually farm labor and farm workers. That's still a problem today. and there's no bespoke solution to that yet. We tried, and one thing that I've asked a couple of friends to do recently was to break the farms into modules. So if you have 10 hectares, just assume you have 10 farms, each is 1 acre, and get one person to look after 1 acre. You still get people that can manage that kind of scale, and you can then be able to spend some money through the process. So the agri sector, the most juicy part of the agri sector today is what I'll call mid-term processing. That's personal view. Please don't take it as investment recommendation. Stay between the people doing crop farming and the people that are marketing it. If you can focus on products that are going overseas, the better, because the market for such product, even before you plant, people already ensure you might probably have others waiting already. So if you can play in that middle, it's still a bit choosy. But all in all, anything agri requires time and your being present. If you cannot devote that, just forget it. You could end up losing a lot of money. So we did that. We have a crop farm, we have a processing farm. The processing farm that we have built us a little bit, because when the crop farming was becoming an issue as a result of changing government policy. So the agri sector too, the way it is today, you need to be very, very conscious of government policies and opportunities. If you are wary of it, when things are changing, you can then be ahead of it. During our time, there was a policy then, the government decreed that 20% of cassava should be substituted for wheat by wheat users. But that policy, when that government changed, the subsequent government didn't go ahead with that policy. So if you are doing cassava at that point in time, you may just end up in big trouble, because you might just see your off-takers walking away. And you know cassava, if you have an off-taker that walked away and you are almost close to harvest, you might lose all your harvest completely. Because if you leave it too long, it becomes nonsense. It becomes wood, more or less. Therefore, not of any use, and not of major use to you. So the agri sector requires alertness to what is going on. If you have to play, be wary of your market. The sweetest spot from my perspective is processing, because of the perennial problem that is in the crop production. But given the recent challenges, Orchard also spend a bit of money. I know a couple of them are doing that for years now, and they just export all their fruits mainly, and they are making some good money from it. I hope that helps. Happy to do a one-to-one with anyone that needs further discussion on that.
Okay, sir. Is there any way they can contact you? LinkedIn?
Yeah, my profile is LinkedIn, but you won't see too much there. I manage my information very well.
Sure.
But I'm sure people can. That's the first test for those that want to get in touch.
And the final question, sir, is because of time. How do you think? What do you think about choosing between partial ownership of a business or investment vehicle? For example, owning a growth stock with compounding returns over time versus cash-based returns, e.g., a tenant paying rent. Which do you prefer and why?
So it depends on your cash flow requirement. It depends on your cash flow requirement. So if I need so let's assume you're a retiree and you need monthly income from it, you might probably go for the rent option. But if you are working, remember I said that keep your expenses within your base income, and this is not your base income. Just make sure, use the opportunity to ensure that don't go for the rent, so that the money will not be within your reach as you might want. So one of the things that will determine your investment options is how you want, if you have a need, how you want the income to be structured, depending on what you want the income for. Very long time ago, I took some investments just to finance the education of my children, because I know at some point they will need to go to university, and I wanted them to school abroad. And I said, so I deliberately look for investment, the return of which I cannot touch for 15 years. And it did work out. So what you should use to determine your investment option beyond the return is also your own need of the income from the investment. That's why you need to be deliberate when it comes to investment. You need to clearly know what you want, and then ensure that your investment you are taking has a fit to what you want. And that fit also includes the optionality that might exist in terms of the income from those investments. I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah, that was clear to me, sir.
Okay.
If the person who asked the question has any other, if they need a follow-up, then as we discussed, they can potentially reach out to you.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's fine.
Very much so. So that brings us to the end of today's event. Jazakallah khair, sir. Thank you very much. That was very insightful for me, personally. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to increase you in beneficial knowledge. Thank you for honoring our invitation and coming here today to impart knowledge on us. And before we close, sir, can I ask you to give us a closing dua?
That's easy. You know, for those of us that are in Hajj, the popular prayer you say when you go around the Kaaba, between the third turn and the last turn when you do the tawaf, is Rabbana atina fi dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar. May Allah give us the best of this world and the best of the hereafter. May Allah accept the prayer, because there cannot be a better prayer than that. The best of this world and the best hereafter. May Allah make the time we spend together uja for us on the day of Qiyamah and uja against us. For all of us, may Allah make our path easy and make our affairs easy. I have a friend, his basic prayer is Kolon Shiwa Pele Pele, that may Allah take it easy with us. And I'm sure if Allah take it easy with anybody, he will succeed in this world and succeed in the hereafter. May Allah accept our prayer. Rabbana atina fi dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar.
Ameen. Ameen. Jazakallah khair, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very
Goodbye,
much.
everyone.
Alaikum, sir. And for somebody who asked when is the next meeting, I believe we have events every first Sunday and third Sunday of the month. So we had this one as the second Sunday because we had Eid on the first Sunday. So third Sunday, inshallah. So yeah, we look forward to welcoming you third Sunday of this month, inshallah. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, everyone. You should be able to get a recording because it's live streamed on YouTube. So if you go to our YouTube channel at Micah Nigeria Lagos, you should be able to get this. It should be recorded on our YouTube channel. Yeah.